Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to my channel. So today we're actually going to be talking about Diddy again. Now, for a while I hadn't heard anything anymore, so I decided to go searching to see what exactly is going on. Also because I feel like there was so much momentum at one point, we just kept hearing about Diddy every single day, and then one day we just randomly stopped, which I guess happens relatively often, but with a case as big as Diddy's, especially considering what he's being accused of. I thought that was surprising, I guess, to a degree. So I went to see what's going on, and it turns out that things somehow get worse. Prosecutors say Sean Combs distributed meth hallucinogens in new indictment. Superseding indictment does not name more defendants, but accuses Combs of victimizing 2 additional women. Obviously, drugs are bad. Duh. Typically, though, I wouldn't be as concerned as I am in this particular case because we know, or the allegations say anyway, and I believe the allegations, that Diddy victimized plenty of women. So the introduction of drugs, we know that alcohol was used apparently, but the introduction of drugs is particularly concerning because it backs up the reality that he was taking advantage of women who were either under the influence or being coerced or forced. And this is basically a confirmation of that because I can't believe that Diddy, having drugs on his hands, wouldn't use them in order to take advantage of women, which seemed to be a central activity in the Diddy sphere. So it says, in a new superseding indictment filed Thursday, prosecutors demanded their sex trafficking and racketeering case against Sean Diddy Combs, claiming he coerced 2 additional women into commercial sex acts, dangled victim over a hotel balcony, and possessed and intended to distribute 2 new drugs not listed in his original indictment, methamphetamine and psilocin, a hallucinogen. The 15-page indictment obtained by Rolling Stone did not name any new co-defendants or any additional counts against Combs. Instead, it added the new allegations under count 1, the charged racketeering conspiracy. The document also expanded the time frame of the alleged conspiracy, saying it started in at least 2004. The prior start date was 2008. Combs' prior indictment, returned in September 2024, said Combs engaged in a pervasive pattern of abuse towards women, but only mentioned victim 1 specifically. The new indictment makes clear prosecutors are basing their case in part on a victim 2 and a victim 3. Regarding drugs, the prior indictment accused Combs of possessing cocaine, oxycodone, ecstasy, and ketamine. As I said prior, the drug thing is certainly concerning, but in no way surprising because, again, if the pattern here is abusing women, I think I'm not going to say it goes without saying, but it is completely predictable that he would use whatever type of drug in order to get women, quote unquote, under his control, in the sense of having women either be unconscious or having them be in such an altered state that they'll go along with whatever he was planning to do. Let us not forget the number of bottles of baby oil. Also, when we say women, it's questionable whether I should be saying women or girls. Let's note that as well. I'd never heard of the hotel balcony claim, so we're going to discuss that as well. The hotel balcony claim appears to be a reference to Brianna Bana Bongolan, a creative who sued Combs in November. In her lawsuit, Bongolan says Combs dangled her over a 17th floor balcony in September 2016 while screaming at her. I really don't know how many people are going to have to come out with horrifying accounts of what occurred with Combs before something actually is done. That's not to say that nothing's going to be done, but there are so many cases like this where it seems like there's just so much evidence and so many people coming forward, and then whatever happens to the actual criminal seems minor in comparison. I'm hoping that's not going to happen, but my faith is relatively low. The latest indictment contains no new offenses, Combs' lawyer Mark Agnifilo says in a statement to Rolling Stone. The prosecution's theory remains flawed. The government has added the ridiculous theory that 2 of Mr. Combs' former girlfriends were not girlfriends at all, but prostitutes. Mr. Combs is as committed as ever to fighting these charges and winning at trial. Combs, 55, is currently charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he faces 15 years to life in prison, and then there's a trial date set for May 5th. Now, obviously, Diddy's lawyer is paid to be Diddy's lawyer, so obviously he's not going to be like, yeah, he fucked up, he did all this shit. At the same time, though, it's always funny to me when lawyers act like claims that are actually relatively credible are completely insane. Now, do I think that Diddy's former girlfriends weren't girlfriends but prostitutes? No, I have no reason to necessarily believe that. And in the scope of everything that's going on, if they happened to be prostitutes and they consented to be with him, then that's a non-issue. If there was consent there and he called them girlfriends but they were actually prostitutes, like that doesn't even really matter in the scope of what we're talking about. If we're talking about trafficking, if we're talking about abuse, some consensual shit with prostitutes, if that were the case, is really not the top of our problems, like in the least at all. Even bringing that up, I think, is almost laughable because it would be like bringing up someone having a parking ticket in the face of them being on trial for murder. Like, who cares about the parking ticket? Combs has been held without bail since his September 16th arrest, pleading not guilty to the original 3 charges against him. 3 judges denied his request for release, thank God, which included a substantial $50 million bail package and around-the-clock monitoring, citing concern of witness tampering and being a danger to the community. Although Combs' team of high-profile attorneys had put the matter in front of an appellate court, Combs' lawyers voluntarily dismissed the bid on December 13th. I definitely feel like not releasing Combs was a good idea because I definitely think there would be tampering with the witnesses. Even if it wasn't him directly, I could see hiring God knows who to either threaten the witnesses or to somehow convince them to not speak or even maybe pay them off potentially. So I think that that was a smart decision, but I also think that that decision speaks to what kind of person the judges also think Combs is, because they fully believe that this is a possibility that he would go out of his way, even though he's quote unquote innocent, to find the witnesses and to find a way to really shut them up. There were no additional details given in the superseding indictment about the 2 other alleged female victims in the case. However, prosecutors previously claimed in court documents that victim 2 had texted Combs in the days after Ventura, so Cassie, filed her bombshell sex trafficking lawsuit, that reading the suit was like reading her own sexual trauma. Combs' team denied that woman was a victim. As Combs prepares for trial, his defense attorneys have claimed that he coming to court... There's so many typos in all the articles I've been reading recently, it's mind-boggling. As Combs prepares for trial, his defense attorneys have claimed that he's coming to court a changed man. How convenient. He's changing now. What great timing. They said he'd sought professional help and gone to rehab years prior to address his substance use issues. However, a Rolling Stone investigation from this week found Combs was still volatile, still taking altering substances, and was still allegedly sexually abusive. More than a dozen new accusers, several who were speaking publicly for the first time, came forward with claims that Combs physically attacked, drugged, and/or sexually assaulted them between 2016 and 2024. Some of these interviews appear in The Fall of Diddy, made in partnership with Rolling Stone Films. That's the thing about the case with Diddy, which is why I always get weirded out when it goes silent, is because when you read the articles, it turns out that there are people constantly and relatively consistently coming forward saying, hey, I also was a victim, or hey, something happened to me. And some of these things are as recent as 2024, allegedly. So really, when he's coming to court, a quote unquote changed man, since when? Since last week? Because as of 2024, it seems like he wasn't a changed man. So I'd really like to know. Aside from the fact that I don't believe that he's a changed man regardless, even if nothing had happened in 2024, or from 2016 to 2024. I don't really believe that, and I think that if you have a pattern of behavior that is as severe as Diddy's was, especially with abuse, I don't know how much of a changed man you can be. And I'm not going to say that abusers are going to stay abusers forever. Maybe they can get control of their impulses, I suppose. Though even then, my faith is low. But the concept that all of this continued until 24 and we're supposed to believe he's coming to court a different man, in May, he's going to be a different man. So what? He has like 5 months to completely change who he is as a person. I mean, going to therapy, if that's even happening, that's great, I guess, but that doesn't undo years of fucked up behavior. Like, you have to go to therapy for a long time before I think there are actually significant changes, if even there can be. I think some people are beyond help, and I don't know if he is one of those people, but I'm not going to believe that since 24, he's gone to therapy and boom, he's a new person, not at all the same person as 24 or from 2016 or 2008. Not going to believe that. Goes on to say, prosecutors previously acknowledged that a superseding indictment could be in play, telling U.S. District Judge Subramanian at a conference hearing in October that their investigation was ongoing and there was a likely possibility of more charges being brought against Combs. The same month, CNN and NBC reported that a grand jury had been hearing testimony from witnesses. Now, the rest of the article goes on to talk about Combs and Cassie, and I discussed that in a prior video, so I'm not going to repeat all of that information again, but I will link the prior videos if you want more context about that. So as of right now, it just seems like things are consistently getting worse, with new victims coming forward, with new allegations like those of the drugs. Honestly, I don't see a way in which Diddy can get away with this. And honestly, like I've said before, I believe I've said it before, or else I just thought it, I'm for life in prison for this man. There is nothing that makes me believe, for even a tiny bit, that he's at all innocent. So there's that. In other news, now this is less official, but still interesting news. When I was on Twitter, I came across this video that is from a live stream that Diddy did. I'm not sure at what exact date. Anyway, I'll put that in here. It is very creepy, and it also speaks to the fact that Diddy seemed to be looking for victims everywhere, including children on the street, like children who were at risk, children who were, well, all children are vulnerable, but children who are particularly vulnerable due to poverty, due to not having housing, due to a whole series of unfortunate circumstances. So watch this.
As you watch the clip that I'm about to show you, remember the charges that Diddy has been pressed with and keep an open mind. It is disturbing.
So, I was on the streets, and then Papa Combs decided that he would like to be a caring man. So then he saw me and decided to pick me up and said to come inside and play with his kids.
That was on a live stream, by the way, and afterwards Diddy tried to cover it up, but you can clearly hear her words there. He picked her up off of the street and said to come in and play with his kids. Pretty crazy, right? Especially when you consider the charges currently against Diddy, including allegations involving a 9-year-old. Would you want your daughter to be going over to Diddy's house? I imagine not. Well, in this case, it was live streamed exactly what happened, and it gets so creepy when you realize that she wasn't even there with anyone in her family or even there necessarily to be with other children of Diddy's. She was there because he saw her and wanted her to be.
And then I always come over.
Yes. And it's Ava Brioni Combs.
That's the most creepy part right there. He kisses her on camera, it's on the cheek.
So, putting aside the commentary of the person who posted this, which is valid commentary, I'm just saying, just looking at the actual footage, this is all very creepy, and I mean, we don't really know the full context aside from what she said. I don't know if there's anything else to it. Regardless, it's inexcusable. Regardless, it's creepy. And with everything else we know about Diddy, it's really like he was hiding in plain sight, because this was not okay to say the least, but also you're being creepy and you're so okay with being creepy that you're just going to do it on camera. That's how protected Diddy feels. And that's also what concerns me, because if you feel that protected and that comfortable, I tend to think either you're stupid as fuck, which is very possible, but also I tend to think you're connected. Like, you know someone, you know people, you know that there's a way that even if what you're doing is morally questionable and very fucking suspicious looking, you have a feeling you're going to get away with it anyway. And those are the people who scare me the most, because to me, it implies that there's a power that we don't see that they have, whether that's allies in high places. I don't know. This just continues to get worse. I don't really know what else there is to say. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.